What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dom and Pop DC Sports Talk Plus podcast. This week, we're going to be talking defensive position grades as well as checking in on the Wiz and, of course, our Che Cazz of the week. What's going on, everybody? Before we get into this week's episode, I just want to thank you all for watching and listening and kindly remind you to please like, comment, subscribe, download, press all the buttons you can to support us. Watch us on YouTube, Dom and Pop Podcast, and check us out on Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, all the good listening services at Dom and Pop DC Sports Talk Plus Podcast. Make sure to give us a download and make sure to also follow us at DC Sports Plus on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks a lot, guys.
Beautiful. Wow.
Thank you. You know, Pop, I
felt something there.
I couldn't have done it without your creative direction.
Exactly. That's producer extraordinaire.
Yep, that's what I needed. You sitting there and just looking at the camera with that 1,000-yard stare. I couldn't have, there's no way I could have got through that. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, Pop. How you doing?
Doing good. Can't complain.
Yes, sir. Another great
How
week.
about you, son?
Doing good. Can't wait to get to it. Another week. You know, I'm a little sore. I was out working out with the guys out in Huntington Beach, running some routes, and I was doing mainly coverage stuff, tackling Gibson, you know, getting ready for my linebacker workout. So, yeah, you know, otherwise pretty good. Yeah.
I saw some of the pictures. You kind of I saw this little dot flashing by a couple of times. So,
yeah. You know, speedy.
There was only about 25 yards of separation between you and Terry. So
yeah, I'm working on it. It's doing good. It was 30 last week, so 25 this week is improvement. But yeah, anyways, you know, good stuff. All good all around here. Ready for another great week. So what do you say we jump right into it?
Let's do it.
Yeah, so this week we're going to be kind of doing like a part 2 almost from episode 16. We did our offensive position grades in episode 16, and we said we'd do defensive next week. And then, of course, Terry got re-signed, so we had to postpone that a week. So we're doing defensive position grades this week. So if you haven't checked out episode 16, go back and check that out. And as a matter of fact, if you haven't checked out some of our earlier episodes on Spotify, we talked about our offensive and defensive position grades at that point in the year. Go check those out too, because we're basically just going to be updating those, reacting based off the changes we've made, et cetera, et cetera. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Pop, as of April 11th, you graded our defensive line a B+. Where do you stand now?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, I think we did make the draft pick to beef up the interior line. I think we touched on a couple of weeks ago that PFF story that has the Commanders' defensive line ranked number 2 overall in the league, only behind the Rams. And they were even making a case for them being number 1, which is pretty crazy. But
yeah.
What'd I say, B+. I'll bump it up to an A-, given the draft pick. I do think that sneakily, our depth is really, really good. So I'll bump it up to a B-.
There you go. So you go up. I think I'm going to hang out at an A-. I would think about rolling down to a B+, just because I don't want to be too optimistic. Right. But I think for these position grades, we're kind of strictly talking talent. We're not talking too much about scheme and coaching and that kind of thing. And I think that on the defensive line, I think the talent is the least of our worries. The more of our concern is going to be like, are we going to rush more than 4 before the 8th game of the season next year? That's really what's going to determine whether or not our line is going to perform. So hopefully we make the adjustments that we need to make scheme-wise, and that A- talent can, show itself to its full A- potential and not the C+ that it was showing last year. Yeah, everything seems to be on track with Chase. Duran's back for another year. Mathis coming and beefing it up. I like it. I'm going to stick it in A-. Linebacker. How you feeling, Pop?
I think I was at a D minus. You were at a D plus. It's hard to really make a change there, right? I mean, I think Ron Rivera referenced linebacker again in his. I think he had a one-on-one interview with J.P. Finley, and I think he did a quick interview with the press after the Terry McLaurin press conference this week. But yeah, I don't know how we would raise our grades at this point. They really haven't done anything or changed anything. I mean, I've heard some comments that they seem to be sneakily liking some of the younger players that they do have and the depth that they have, but it seems like they're gonna can kind of stick with that two linebacker set and in their base defense. And what happens if they have an injury or two? So I think I got to stick with a D minus until we see some free agent signing or something happen there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I was at a D plus. I don't know why I felt the need to put a plus there. I'm lowering my grade to an F. I think it's unacceptable what the linebacker situation is on defense. That's an F for me. You can talk all the noise you want about how we don't play base defense for most of the game. The two linebacker set is kind of the future. They're going to lean towards that. We don't even have two linebackers. Our second linebacker is David Mayo. That's unacceptable. David Mayo is getting first-team reps ahead of Jamin Davis. That's unacceptable. I don't want to start throwing the B word around here, but that sounds like Davis is a bit of that. And
well, he's at least a project, right?
He's at least underperforming his.
When you hear things like they're working him in and he's starting to develop a little bit, that just doesn't seem like what was a first round pick.
Yeah.
Right.
And just to be clear, this is a family friendly podcast. I'm talking about bust for the B word. But yeah, I'm not happy with what's going on there. The fact that David Mayo is getting first team reps on this defense that we're relying on to be the stronghold of the team is unacceptable. So F for me. Big fat, one of the Fs with the red pen circled around it, and then they draw the line for your parents.
I wouldn't know anything about that, son.
And then they draw the line after the grade, and your parents have to sign the line. That's the F I'm giving it. Horrible. Defensive backs, we could swing things up a little bit here. I think we both had Bs on this one. Pop, how you feeling about defensive back?
Yeah, I thought when I went back and listened to it, we didn't really break it up into cornerback and safety. I feel a little bit better about the safety position and the depth we have there and the starters. Corner, I think the starting three guys are good, but the depth behind that worries me a little bit. But yeah, I'll stick with a B. I don't have any reason to back off that grade. I don't have any reason to improve that grade either, though.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go B minus here. I think I'm going to back off the grade a little bit just because I'm really concerned about William Jackson next year. And again, little more of a scheme issue. He's known as more of a man corner, and we're sticking the guy in zone. But in reality, he's got to be able to perform in the situations that he's in. So if we're gonna be, even if he's an A+ man corner and he's a C- zone corner, if he's in zone 70% of the game, he's a C- cornerback. So that's a real concern for me, and I know that was there on the 11th, but you have a little more time to think about it and things. Right. So I'm gonna bump that down to a B-. Also, Percy Butler had some flashes, but a little bit hot and cold in camp. So not quite, or excuse me. Well, I guess mini camp is still camp technically, right?
Yeah,
I'll call it camp. But yeah, so B- for me there. I didn't see any market improvements, and I think a lot of where I was at April 11th was I was grading positions for where they were at that point in the year, assuming that some adjustments could be made and we could roll forward and maybe add some and say, okay, well, we're here now. This is maybe a B, and now it's, what's today? July 9th. So almost 2-3 months later, it's now this is a different point in the year. I expect the roster to be closer to finalized, and that's.
Are you sleeping on Troy Apke?
I don't think Troy Apke.
Still have Troy Apke on the roster.
Because it's July 9th. That's why we still have Troy Apke on the roster. I'd be willing to bet you by September 1st, Troy Apke is not on this team.
So who do we got? Who we got here? We got William Jackson, Kendall Fuller, and Benjamin St. Juste, likely the three main cornerbacks. We've got Bobby McCain and Cam Curl as our safeties. From a depth perspective, that's where it gets a little dicey. I guess Jeremy Reeves would be your, next man up at safety.
And I like Reeves for what it's worth.
I do like Reeves too, but then at corner, you've got kind of slim pickings. We've got the late draft pick because was that Christian Holmes was the late round draft pick.
Something like that.
Yeah, there've been some good talk of him, but I think it's BB minus is probably about right there.
Yeah, it's going to be a B minus for me. The cornerback depth is a concern. I'd say St. Juste has exceeded expectations in minicamp, but that's also minicamp. So we'll see if he can exceed those expectations in training camp and in preseason, and then most importantly, during the actual season. B minus for me there. I mean, it could go up. Maybe we're doing these rankings again in a year and it's an A plus. I mean, there's some talent there, but it has to be. We have to figure out how to use that talent most effectively. So then that leaves us with special teams, Pop. If you're ready to move on, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about Benjamin St. Juste anymore, but special teams. So I got an A minus. You got a B. How are you feeling? I'll let you kick it off.
Well, I had to really think about this one hard because I'm still shook from the fact that, your controversial take of Tress Way
that's not
being the
controversy, baby.
Greatest Washington football Redskin, I guess can't say commanders yet, but commander of your lifetime. That's still got me shook. So just on that alone, I'm going to take it from a B to a B plus. I really don't have anything else to say there, but
there you go.
Had to sit and have to think around that one.
My boy, another, I guess this is quickly becoming a podcast favorite, as we do more and more of these episodes, these deep roster names keep coming up. But I'm bringing us up to an A because of my boy Percy Butler. I mean, he was supposed to be the best special teamer in the draft. We added him to the team. Finally get Apke off the damn roster, I hope. Sorry, Apke. I hope you can go make a living somewhere else. Maybe he's good at media. We finally get him off the team. Percy Butler's going to take over there. That's going to be an improvement. So we made some significant additions to special teams in the draft. And my boy Tress Way coming back. Tress, we'd love to have you on the pod if you're listening. Greatest Redskin Washington football team player and soon-to-be commander of my lifetime. Tress Way, leading the special teams charge. Hey,
are you sticking by that?
On a per-position basis. I mean, London Fletcher is
Here's your chance.
London Fletcher. I would say London Fletcher and Clinton Portis are the only guys that I would put in his tier. On a per position. Per position, longevity of career, and the ceilings that they hit. That's for me. Tress Way is up there. It's goofy to say because it's a kicker and punter, but if we had a wide receiver that was performing at the level Tress Way was performing relative to the rest of the people at his position, for as long as he performed, I'd be hemming up his gold jacket right now. So Tress Way, for me, I stick to that.
Can you complete the statement? Because I need to make a clip out of this.
Nope.
Tress Way is the...
Nope. Not completely, because you're gonna take me out of context like you did last week. It's crazy, man.
All right.
Crazy.
But I think just overall, it is interesting how things have flipped, right? I mean, last year at this time, the defense was going to be top 10, top 5. We were all going crazy. We were, dicey about the offense, especially because of the quarterback situation. But defense was a lock. And now it seems to have flipped. There just seems to be. And really, if you think about it, what's changed on defense? There really isn't much change. We didn't lose anybody of note. And yet I think we're able to see sort of the holes and some of the flaws that are there.
Yeah.
I think they, I think it's not talked about enough, but I do think it's like any other sport. really offense and defense really complement one another, and the better the offense plays, the more that's going to help the defense. And, I think that if the offense can stay on the field, extend drives, keep the offense on the field, and really allow us to be in attack mode, I think that could help our ranking. But we'll have to
Yep.
see how it plays out. It just really is interesting how that's completely flipped this year.
Yep. Yep. They always
Hopefully it
talk
evens
about
out.
the big buzzword at the press conferences is always complimentary football. And I think, the old saying goes defense wins championships. That's everybody always says that. But I think you have to allow your defense to win you the championship because ultimately points
Right.
win games, right? So you have to let the defense get a breather, and obviously that was a big issue last year, was just not being able to control the clock and keep the offense on the field to let the defense get caught up. But ultimately, when the defense was on the field, the defense severely, severely, severely underperformed. I mean, we had like 48.9, 48.5 something percent conversion rate. That's unacceptable. So after a year of that, that's definitely a concern, and I think we're kind of looking at I think we're kind of looking at the defense being the question mark going into next year, personally.
Yeah, it feels
And I think
feels that way.
it's
Feels
more
that
the
way.
offense, which is crazy because we plunked in a new quarterback and probably the most volatile quarterback in the NFL. We plunked him into our roster, and we're saying that the defense is the biggest question mark. So that's kind of crazy.
Interesting.
But speaking of that, there's a quick Wentz topic. We'll just quickly touch on that. And then I also spoke about press conferences. We'll move on to some press conference stuff. Real quick, Commanders Twitter going crazy this week over the whole Baker Mayfield selling for a 5th-round pick. And Carson Wentz, we gave up a little bit more for him, and we're going to have to pay. I think the biggest thing, too, is I guess the Browns and the Panthers are splitting Baker's salary, whereas we're paying for Wentz's outright. Pop, quick thoughts, quick hit, 30 seconds. What do you think?
I think it's all kind of dumb, and this is why it's completely, apples and oranges in the sense that did you really want to wait till just before training camp to lock up our quarterback? And the
Yeah.
cost for Baker at the time that we got Wentz wouldn't have been the same. So it's typical Twitter fodder. It's typical talk show host fodder. And I don't know that we really qualify. We're just a little dot and pop pod here so far. Hopefully it'll improve. But I think it's just not even. You can't even look at those two deals side by side. Did you really want to wait till right before training camp? Imagine how this town would just be going absolutely bananas.
With Taylor Heineke as quarterback one.
We needed to lock somebody up. You might argue we overplayed a little bit, but that's what needed to get done at that time. And I still maintain he was the best option at that time. You offer the Browns a 5th-round pick for Baker at that time and only offer to pay half his salary, they're not taking that deal at the beginning of the offseason. So I just think it's kind of ridiculous. And in terms of who's the better quarterback, we don't really know. I mean, I think that without question, Wentz is the better talent. Baker's been up and down, seems to have a really good season, not so great season. In Carolina, they've got 3 guys now, right, that could vie for the starting spot. I think Baker is likely to be the starter there.
Darnold's on his way out there.
But yeah, I just think it's kind of silly, honestly. I guess that's my take on it.
I agree. I think not enough is made about the fact that Baker played most of the year last year on a torn shoulder. So I think he's better than what we saw of him last year, and I think that you want to talk about dysfunctional organizations. Baker was drafted number 1 overall by one of the most dysfunctional organizations in the NFL. He was overdrafted by a lot of people's metrics and what a lot of people thought. Funnily enough, I think Darnold was drafted like number 3 in that draft, which is just kind of a funny nugget there that you have 2 guys who have kind of been the butt of a lot of quarterback jokes in the NFL are now on the same roster that were top 3 picks. But, I agree with you. I think, if anything, I keep going back to the way we handled quarterbacks in 2020 with Fitzpatrick and that being our answer and having no real plan If anything, I think that's what you complain about. You complain about the fact that we're sitting here talking about whether or not Carson Wentz or Baker Mayfield would be a better option. You can complain about that. But I think to say that we should have waited and gotten Baker, who has shown us no reason to be better than Wentz. He has every question mark that Wentz has, and he hasn't displayed anything close to the ceiling that Wentz has displayed.
Yeah.
With more in Cleveland. He's been playing with more. He's been playing with a top 10 defensive line, a really good offensive line, a top 3 rushing attack in the NFL since he's been there. So it's insane to me. I think it's pretty stupid. Baker for a 5th, and then maybe if we took like Willis at 11, like fine, but we got Dotson, we got more weapons. I'm not into it. I don't like it.
Yeah. Time will
like
tell, and like
Yeah.
I said, you could maybe make an argument if you look at it straight up, but you can't because context and timing is everything, and the timing of those two deals is completely different. And like I said, it would be absolutely losing our mind, if we were kind of pushing it up to training camp before we locked the quarterback up. So two completely different scenarios for sure.
Yep.
In terms of like switching gears, just real quick. Terry Presser, again, he said all the right things. We spent all our time celebrating Terry signing, so we're definitely not ignoring that. But I don't know there was anything really new there. I mean, he made a fantastic statement. Again, just incredibly impressive. Says all the right stuff in terms of being a leader and in terms of where he is in his personal journey as a family man and what he's able to do for his parents. With the deal and how hard he's going to work. And you touched on it, one of my favorite things is the fact that immediately after signing the deal, they had already scheduled a workout out close to you in Huntington Beach, California. And we saw pictures already out there of, Wentz, Terry, Dotson. It was great to see a picture of Dotson and Terry having a conversation, smiling.
Yep.
Gibson, and I'm sure there are others that we didn't see in the pictures just yet, at least that I haven't seen. So it was really good to see. Again, great presser. Says all the right things. I don't know there's a whole lot more to say about that.
No, he's awesome. He talks about, being on the verge of tears and being so happy about it. And yeah, there's just nothing.
Did you get a little misty when you were watching that, son? Tell the truth.
I didn't. It's all good. It's a different this level. This is a different excitement. This is like a let's go, like pump in my chest kind of excitement. This isn't the teared up
All right.
kind of excitement. We win a playoff game, you might see both at the same time. But
And then quickly on Ron's comments, I think, obviously he said it was important for the organization, said, again, all the right things to sign Terry, not just to sign Terry, but doing it for the fan base and doing it as a signal to everybody else that, this is a good place to be. We talked about the fact that they're just locking up leaders on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. But some interesting things in terms of other stuff that Ron said around needing to shift some more focus on the defense. So I do think it's pretty obvious. He said that a couple of times. They're gonna be signing a linebacker, I think, here, soon. They're probably gonna have to go after the best of what's left. Obviously, they're shopping from, more for deals at this point. But I think there's going to be something done there. But it was also interesting how he talked about the other guys they're wanting to sign. And it seems like the next priorities for re-signing really have to be Deron Payne, Cole Holcomb, Cam Curl. And then, if you look at Deron and Cole, they're on the last year of their contract. Cam and Montez have 2 years left. So next year they'd be on the last year of their deal. But if you had to pick one, who do you prioritize out of that group? And what are your just general thoughts around signing those guys quickly?
Oh, it's tough to give an answer right now just because I think a lot of it is going to depend on how this year goes. If Chase comes back this year, Chase Young, and is 100% and he's the beast that we saw him to be in the latter half of the 2019 season, I hate to say it, but as much as I love Sweat, maybe he's not as necessary. I'd say Cam Curl would probably be towards the top of that list for me. Safeties are hard to come by in the NFL, and a lot of safeties are kind of just guys back there, and I think he really has the potential to be special, and I think he's shown that. And I think, unfortunately, because the rest of the defense has been so stinking bad for most of the time that he's been here, that he hasn't
But
really
why rush it,
flashed.
right? I mean, might as well see another year of Cam
Yeah,
before we make that decision. I mean, maybe we can extend him cheaper now, and they know
but
more football than we do for sure. If they're convinced he's the guy, then maybe you lock him up,
he's also
cheaper now than later. But
he's also a seventh round guy at the end of the day. Like, I mean, he has performed, but you'd also assume
let's
that
see one more year, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, Payne would be
No
at the
reason
top.
no reason to rush with Cole either, right? I
Yep.
mean, seems to be a lot of Cole love, but let me see another year. For me, it's Duran. If
I
we locked
agree.
up
I was just about
Duran,
to say that Payne's at the top of my list.
yeah, if in a week or two we hear they locked him up, I think the only downside I see Duran on that list is big money.
Yeah.
Montez is going to be big money too, but I think you could certainly get Cam or Cole for a better deal. But
That's why
for me, I'd be thrilled if I heard they locked Duran up.
That's why I started off with the bit about Montez and Chase Young being healthy, because I realistically it's going to be hard to get Payne and Montez unless they're both willing to take pretty team friendly deals. But who
Fair.
knows? The salary cap's going to open up.
Yeah.
That's above my pay grade. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of
yeah.
regurgitating
Interesting to see
what
how
I've
it's
been
gonna
told,
play out.
but- yeah, so we'll see
right.
how that goes. Real quick, I'm totally fine with letting Cole Holcomb walk, personally. But we'll get on with that.
I would not want to re-sign him now. To me, that is not a priority at all.
What-
I know there's some talk about it, but I like the kid for sure. I'm not quite where you are in terms of saying I'm ready to let him walk.
Not
But
this
we got to
year.
see another year. We got to
Well-
see another year.
To be fair, I'm cool with letting him walk this year because I'm the next guy on the depth chart. So I'm playing. I'm getting my
I don't know.
250K guarantee.
After that Huntington Beach tryout, I got to get a full report. I got to get a full report. Got to watch the
we'll
film.
see. We'll see. PFF is
right.
working on my grade right now. But real quick, let's switch over to the Wiz. So a couple more things. Let's touch on. You want to touch on Beal's contract really quick? A week later. One more small detail. He had a presser, and then of course another detail that was getting some media attention was that he's actually the first guy to sign a no trade clause in his contract this year.
I thought that was surprising where they say he's the only guy that has a no trade clause. I thought they were more common in the NBA, but what do I know? I thought there were other guys that had those in their contract. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. We talked about it last week, the contrast in the feelings about Terry, which are just like unanimous, and then the feelings about Beal. And I know there's a big difference in terms of, the amount of money that is being spent on Beal in respect. But I guess I kind of look at it this way, and you and I know we've had a lot of conversations about Brad, and you've actually kind of been on his side a little more than me at times. But I think, the turning point that I have with Brad is that realizing that you can't turn a player into something that he's not. And he's probably never going to be a great defender. And that's okay. But he's an elite scorer. To be able to average 30 points a game back-to-back years, it's incredible. And think about it this way. Who else were we going to get? Right?
Yep.
And secondly, what if Brad wasn't on our team? What if he wasn't? And we signed him. We just signed him as a free agent. How would you feel?
You'd be pumped.
You'd
be like,
pumped.
here we go. We have
So-
a chance to start contending.
So it's like, I get fans, right? They want us to be the Golden State Warriors. They want us to be like the Lakers in the sense of maybe not their success, but the ability to sign great players or attract free agents. But we're not that. And I don't really know, you understand it a bit more with the Commanders because of some of the history situation with the team. I don't really know why DC isn't a much more attractive place for free agents. I mean, okay, the team hasn't been successful, but we've seen teams turn things around pretty quick. And maybe the fact that we've got Brad, although we may not have enough money to bring in another big splash, helps. But I just kind of look at it like, what else do you want, people? tanking in the NBA and trying to get good through the draft is dicey.
It's really hard.
It's really dicey. So I don't know. I mean, people say it's like an example of an organizational failure or poor run organization. The fact that we did a no trade clause, I don't get it. All the no trade clause really does is it leaves it up to Brad whether he wants to be here or not.
Yeah.
He can choose. He can choose to say, okay, I'd like to be traded, and that's kind of how that situation's going to go down anyway.
Yeah. Yep. Ultimately, that's really what it comes
happens.
down to. And maybe the no trade clause was the difference between him staying here and him going to Boston. Like, who knows? Like,
I
maybe
think
that
for
came
sure
up in
it was a negotiation
negotiations.
point.
Yeah, because ultimately, we're not going to see Kevin Durant get traded to a team he doesn't want to go play for.
Right.
Let's be real. Like, he's going to go play wherever he wants to play. Come on.
Right.
It's Kevin Durant. Like,
It's a nuance.
Bradley Beal's not Kevin Durant, but he's in that tier of he has enough pull within the organization. We're not just going to go dump him off in Oklahoma City or wherever he doesn't want to be if he wants to be traded. We're going to put him where he wants to go. So I think.
So give me your 5 Wiz starters at this point. What's your starting 5? Because a couple question marks in there around the forward position.
Yeah.
I'm real interested to hear your starting 5.
So Monty Morris, obviously, since we lost the star point guard.
I like that. I'm liking that signing more and more and more as time's going on.
Love it. We lost our star breakout one guard Raul Neto. So Monty Morris, number 1 there, a point guard. Probably Johnny Davis is shooting. No, Bradley Beal, of course, is shooting guard. Johnny Davis is going to contribute a lot, but Bradley Beal. Will Barton, for me, small forward. Let's let that guy start. I just don't think we've seen enough out of Advia, and I wanna Hachimura. For me, you're higher on Hachimura than I am. I'm firmly indifferent on Rui Hachimura. So I'll be quick. I'll just leave it at that. Kuz at the 4, and then of course my boy Tingus Pingus, Kristaps Porzingis at the 5.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna obvious start. I think the only real question mark is the 2 forwards, right?
Yeah.
I think Kuz is cemented. I'm right there with you, so I'm not gonna, repeat names. I go Rui and Kuz as my 2 starters, right? Because here's what I like about it. It was interesting, trying to look at the roster. Pop's memory is not what it used to be, so sometimes it's my hardest part of doing this pod is pulling names. Even though I know the names, trust me, I know the Wiz roster.
Marcus
I know
Sweat.
the Commanders roster, but under the pressure of the lights here, sometimes I freeze up. But I was looking at the roster. It was interesting to see they got Kuzma listed as a small forward on ESPN. So I like that Rui-Kuzma combination because I just think they can be interchangeable. They both can play in the power or the small. They're going to create matchup issues. They both can shoot from distance. I agree. Rui's got to step up his game. He just doesn't always seem real interested out there.
Yeah.
But you got a lot of good options there. And, in terms of backups, like, we didn't talk much about the backups, but you got Gafford. I think Advia still has a lot of growth before we're talking about him as a starter, but, good defensive player coming off the bench. You got DeLon Wright, who I think is going to be a real good backup as well at the guard positions. And, of course, Johnny Davis, the draft pick. So, we'll see. I mean, you're down, already locked it in for 50 wins next year. So
not what happened. But I locked it in for 2 less wins than you did, and somehow I get edited on all of a sudden on the Instagram at DC
all I could say
Plus.
is a little less time on Smash, a little more time editing videos for social media, and maybe you could throw a couple out there for Pop. But as long as I'm doing the video editing, it's going to be a little bit more. On that kind of thing.
That's how the media works. They always need a villain. Apparently, I'm the villain now.
Taking things out of context. It was too good. It was too good.
But
anyway, if you don't know what we're talking about, go check out our Twitter and been a little bit more active on Instagram here lately. So go check those out. You'll see the video clips and you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
There you go. Yeah, at DC Sports Plus, Twitter, Instagram, the whole shebang. So without further ado, why don't we get into our Che Cazz of the week, Pop?
I think
After
we got to
that,
do
I
it.
mean,
We got to do it. A little bit of a dip of the head this week for Che Cazz moment.
yeah, it's a tough one. So yeah, we lost two. Our culture, man, this is a rough week for our culture this week. We lost two icons, James Caan and Tony Sirico, both passed in the same week. Man, rest in
Yeah,
peace.
we
Thank
talked
you
about.
for your contributions and your amazing art that you gave us while you were here. Paulie Walnuts got to be one of the best television characters of all time.
Without
If you
question.
ask me, it's between like him and Jesse Pinkman for the best second character. Yeah, just that's all I got to say.
You gonna
Rest in
be all
peace.
right, son? You're a little bit emotional there.
I rest my drink on this coaster every time.
Oh wow! Look, look at that. We're gonna have to blur that out.
I already checked the little box that says no, this podcast is not for kids on YouTube, so
All
we're
right.
good. We're good.
There you go. But now, yeah, it is sad, and like we mentioned before, Che Cazz has a lot of meanings. We usually try to have a bit more fun with it, but sometimes you just it's like Che Cazz, man.
Yep.
That sucks. It's kind of like that sucks, right? So just a little bit of a language lesson there and a multi-purpose use of that term.
Of course.
But yeah, I think James Caan. I don't know whether you've actually watched The Godfather all the way through. I know it's on our checklist of
Yeah.
things to do, but it's a bit generational. But Sonny Corleone, I mean, James Caan's not even Italian, right? But the way he played that part, there could have been no one more perfect, and it was so authentic. It's even more amazing that he's not Italian to play that part, and even him breaking off the piece of bread and dipping it into to the meat or into the sauce like he did, and so natural. And he was, I know he had a lot of other great roles, a lot of other great movies, but he was just perfect for that role of Sonny, sort of the hothead son, successor, to the Godfather. It was crazy. And then Tony Sirico, Paulie Walnuts. What else can you say? I think you said it perfectly. He really added a lot of humor to that show. Such
Brilliant.
great moments, and it's they were right around late 70s, early 80s. So you would have hoped they would have had a few more good years left in them. But yeah, it just makes you sad. And let's hope they say things like this happen in threes. Let's hope we don't lose another icon here soon in that same realm. But thinking of that, maybe turn it a little bit. What would you say? I know we're both big Sopranos fans. I think we've both watched it at least twice, all the way through. What would be your favorite Paulie moment from The Sopranos?
I mean,
So many. There's so many great moments and quotes.
there's so many great ones. I think I know some of the ones you're gonna say, so I'm gonna lean away from them. But I'm gonna give you two.
Okay.
My favorite one is just like, this is just sentimental for me. Is pretty much the first real Paulie Walnuts moment we get when he really tells you who he is when they're going in. It's in the first episode. Him and I can't even. It's a character.
Say it. Big Pussy.
Him and Big Pussy go into the coffee shop because they're looking for a guy that had worked there. It's a minor storyline, and they're trying to basically shake them down to find out about this guy. And Paulie walks in, and they're giving him all the fancy names of all the coffee and stuff, and you got the cashier. She's incorporating Italian into the way she's giving the orders, and she's butchering the pronunciations, and everything's horrible. And he's like, he freaks out basically to Big Pussy on the side. He's like, "Can you believe this? Like, we give these people everything, and Italians, we completely missed out on this. They took all our coffee, our olive oil, our fresh mozzarella, our pizza, calzone." He names all the foods. He's like, "If it wasn't for us, these people, they'd eat trash. They'd eat garbage." Like, it's so awesome.
Puzza.
That's the exact word. And he comes back to the shop later on, or I think it's maybe just a couple scenes later, and he actually steals a maca pot in his jacket, which I think is awesome.
Steals the coffee pot.
And the second one is after he goes to see the psychic. and the psychic gives him some bad news when he goes to the priest. And he starts listing all the donations that he gave to the church, and he's like almost shaking the priest down. And he's like, he's like, when the altar boys needed new wives, who cut the check? He's telling all the things that he did.
So he gets his path into heaven.
Exactly. He's like, I should be set on all of this. He's like, I took better care of you guys than anybody. So I thought that was a really great scene too, because obviously he's dead serious, but it's hysterical when you look at it from the outside looking in.
So many good ones.
So what about you, Pop?
Now those are I mean the coffee shop scene was going to be one of mine, but I think the famous Pine Barrens episode, and I think him and Chrissy had such great moments. And I'd say two things from that where the guy was part of the Russian guy they were chasing was actually part of the interior ministry, and he called him an interior decorator. And then Chrissy goes, well, his place looked like crap. that was a funny moment. And then when they were fighting over the packs of ketchup because they're stuck out in the cold and they're abandoned and they're waiting to get rescued, and Chrissy tells, you've been holding out on me. And they start fighting over the packs of ketchup. But no, such great moments, and rest in peace to Tony Sirico and to James Caan, or otherwise Sonny and Paulie.
Yep. I hope Tony Sirico and James Gandolfini are messing around with each other and
I'm sure.
joking up
I'm
in
sure.
the great beyond. Because, damn, what a loss. It is sad, especially just watching that show. Two of the three main characters not with us anymore.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. But yeah, I mean, with that, a little more somber note to end the pod on, but I think that's pretty much it for this week. Pop, you want to touch on anything else real quick before we wrap up, or leave it on a little tribute episode? Rest in peace to James Caan, Tony Sirico. I think that's it for us this week. With that, I'm Dom.
This is Pop.
And thank you guys so much for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Can't complain, you're so lovely. Look in your eyes, paradise. I'm so close to heaven now. Just waiting on you. Love me like that. Just love me like I love you, baby. Just love me like I love you. Waiting on